Welcome to Show Me the Money at Rugby League TV, and this is our Championship review and Championship preview show. So throughout 2023, we're going to be doing a Super League, a Championship and a League One weekly show. So full of facts, figures, lovely content, predictions, silliness, you name it, it will be in this. If you like your Championship, we're going to leave no stone unturned. So we've just had round one of the Championship. We're now into round two. We've got the Monday night game to go over from last week, which of course was Keighley 0, Featherstone Rovers 50. Somebody sat to the left of me, you're right, was confident Keighley would win by 10. And
I didn't say, no, Dad said that. Dad said 10, I said Keighley. I did say Keighley, I said by 4, I think, 2 or 4 by just a try.
So all this week, we've seen the shenanigans on Twitter. Joe, let's be honest, how are you feeling? Because you actually wanted producer Sam to not put that show out.
I was joking.
What on earth gave you... Listen, I'm sure you can attack me when I come up with a silly prediction throughout this season, but I'm struggling to understand.
Well, some of the things I've heard in pre-season, like I said, I've did a few behind the closed game, behind the curtain games, and I only heard good things. I heard they looked better than a certain someone's team, Mick, from another team that they did like a freeway, and I heard Keighley were the standout, so I was like, oh wow, brilliant. Obviously being, I'd say, a good family friend with Luke Gale, I think more confident that they're looking good. Obviously, again, being closer to Reese as a coach, he was saying, yeah, we're looking good. All indications were that they were on it and they were ready to go. And to be honest, Mick, I don't want to cover my own arse here, but I've been thinking about it, and I think it's more of an indication of how wrong most people, and especially myself, I'm roping you in with me, but I'm saying especially myself, didn't appreciate how good Featherstone really were. I think that was the big one. They obviously beat KR. Everyone had them winning or being the top 2, but I don't think we realised how good. We all said, it's going to be a really close season on the back of Halifax. Well, we'll get into it, but in fact, of what they did to Halifax yesterday and what they've done to Keighley, it sadly could be a 1 or 2 horse race between Toulouse and Featherstone here, and I don't think anyone wanted that. Probably my hope.
I predicted that. We predicted that. I on the preview show.
Yeah, but we all said no. Yeah, you said the
preview. The top 2 comfortably will be.
Yeah, but I think we're all saying it's going to be a closer season. It's going to.
Yeah, between third and 10, there'll be. I think less than 10 points between.
Yeah, but I think between the 1st and 6th, I think we said there's going to be a top 6, and I thought, it's going to be close. We're going to be at it, and yeah, that's what I've got wrong.
You're not roping me in, Joe. I'm sorry. I'm cutting.
But yeah, I think we all said it would be a close top of the table. There's definitely a top table and a lower table, but I think there's sadly going to be. What I didn't appreciate enough, what you might have, and I didn't get that enough maybe from your messaging me, you could have convinced me a bit more. But there's a top 2, there's a middle, and then there's a bottom.
Let me explain.
I think that's the way we should have worded it, a top 2, a middle. We didn't. If you watch the show back.
Jimmy, did I not say there's the top 2 of Featherstone and Toulouse?
Both me and you have said.
And then you've got
you said. I'm not letting you. You've
got third down to 10th, which is unpredictable. And then you've got a bottom 4.
You said,
you think
Fev and Toulouse will be the top 2, but from there, but the caveat was it's going to be a lot closer. When I'm saying now, no, it could end up looking like Liam Fev last year. Just how good Fev looked.
What I said last week is me and Mick have got it the other way around. You had Toulouse top, I had Fev top, Toulouse second. We both said...
I've still got Toulouse to finish top.
I know. And I'm not... I still think it's going to be very close. What I was saying then was... I said there's been 8. I think there's been 8 and I've got to pick 4 out of the 8. What I did say earlier on is that I believe that both Toulouse and Fev, or I certainly did believe Toulouse and Fev will lose more games this year. Now, obviously, after the first 2 performances from Fev, like you're saying, and Toulouse, it's like, God, maybe it is just total domination again. But we know that historically you get to the middle part of the season, a few injuries coming in, they get more gettable. So yeah, they're both off to flyers. I still think, like we've said, Mick said they'll be the top two teams. Coin toss for who comes top. But I do think at some point of the season, there'll be some games when Toulouse are away from home. I thought their own record would be rock solid. We both did. But you might be able to get them on the road a bit if they lose a few to injury. And Fev might hit that middle period as well if they have a good run in the Challenge Cup, where they'll be gettable. But we will see. There's a long way to go, and if we crack on with this weekend,
I'll just finish. I'll finish off.
You can't keep digging.
I'm not digging. No, I'm not digging. I'm saying.
I'm saying you've had a good result this weekend, and a much better performance this weekekend, which shows.
I don't think they'd say that's a good result. To be honest, I think they'd be sad that they lost it again. I think they were probably hoping for a good bounce back win.
I'm sure they were, but it's still a very respectable result to push. It went very late on. Widnes got a late try to put in that difference.
And I think, but like I said, I think they'd be upset that they've lost two on the bounce. Two on the bounce, and I think, like I said, I think it were more a bit sad about Keith. Like I said, it looks like they need more squad depth. To be honest with you, Mick, that's my honest reflection on what I got wrong. Is that some of them, some League One players that have moved up, obviously, I think give them time because it is such a big difference. But there's definitely a bit of a gap there that they need to find a way to catch up quick. And then, like I said, just underestimated how good Featherstone was. So, to be honest, all credit to Featherstone more than bad for Keighley. All credit Featherstone. I think most people were shocked about that result. I know I got it completely wrong, but I think not many. I don't think I saw anyone say 50-0.
No,
I had Featherstone to win by 10.
Yeah,
I
think all credit to Featherstone. They looked outstanding. So apologies, Keighley fans. I were with you. I'm still going to try be with you, but not as strongly as I was pre-season.
Well, I think what Monday night showed last Monday, for first and foremost, was the preparation what Sean Long has had. The 4 pre-season games, whereas Keighley have gone in just the one. Featherstone are going to hit all guns blazing early doors of the season, and we saw that yesterday with their comprehensive defeat of Halifax. We'll start with, like you say, Jimmy, following on from Keighley's humiliating home defeat. It was humiliating. We're not going to sugarcoat it. 50 points to 0. You're back in the big time. The cameras are there, and you're being humiliated. 50 points to 0. A much better showing yesterday against the Widnes Vikings. We know Widnes were leading 18 points to 6, and then all of a sudden you get the back-to-back Keighley tries, and there's a little bit of doubt there. Luke Gale scored a couple of tries yesterday. Story's gone over, and it's 18 points apiece, and you're heading towards that sort of final 10-15 minutes. Only really for a late Ryan Miller, which was his hat-trick score, and he's having a great year. He's up to 4 tries already, is Ryan Miller, former Bradford winger, of course. John taking him and Ant Walker from the Bulls to Widnes. That decided that game. So, there's no shame from Keighley, in my opinion, in losing away at Widnes to a last-minute try. And I think that will give Reece Lovegrove the confidence and belief, to trust his process. Yeah. We know he's going to play the game of rugby league a little bit differently based on how he interprets the stats. We know that. We've mentioned that. He's mentioned it in a number of interviews he's done with the media. And the pressure is on Keighley a little bit. They're at home at Newcastle this weekend, and that should be, from a Keighley point of view, one of those fixtures where they do taste success. But on the flip side of that, Widnes the flying. They've had 2 very dogged performances, gutsy displays, and they've come back with 2 from 2, and they of course face Bradford and Odsal on Sunday. John, going back to Odsal, but Jimmy, your thoughts on that Widnes?
Yeah, well, I think that's what I was getting at before. I know that obviously Keighley would definitely have liked to win that, but it would have been a nightmare if it'd gone to Widnes and Widnes had put a big score on him. So to push them so close, clearly bounce back and put in a good performance regardless of result. Bearing in mind, this is all my opinion, but I've been viewing Widnes as being one of the top teams this year. Widnes, on the flip side, brilliant for them because they, they lost Tom Gilmore, who we talked about so much in the preview, how big a loss he is for Batley and how big a gain he is for Widnes. So for them to lose him after one round, and it could be up to 3 months with a torn pectoral.
That's what I'm hearing, 12 weeks,
That's huge loss. Now, luckily for them, Danny Craven was just about ready. They put him in, he scores within 15 minutes and they're up and running. So I'm sure John Keir and everyone at Widnes are delighted to get through that game. And hopefully, Danny now will be able to step into those shoes and, Widnes will kick on again. But yeah, I think surely plenty of positives for Keighley that they've pushed them close. Like you say, Newcastle is, without us being too dramatic, is as good as a must-win for Keighley. If they're gonna start their season and launch themselves into that playoff contention, then that is a game. That's at home as well, is it?
It's at Cougar Park. Yes.
That's a game they've got to be looking at winning. So great start for Widnes. Terrible losing Gilmore though. Terrible. For me thinking, I think I had Widnes as 5th.
I think you had him above
I put him
Bradford,
5th, Bradford 6th. Gilmore was a huge part of that. So now I think for me, if they can get in the playoffs, brilliant. That's going to be a big, much bigger challenge. We know how competitive it is. We said it'll come down to injuries, and Bradford losing Jack Walker, Widnes losing Gilmore, probably two. I don't know if we'd picked out 10 players or 1 or 2 players from every team. They definitely would both
certainly.
be.
Jack Walker for Bradford,
two of the biggest signings of the close season.
Gilmore for
They'd be in the
Widnes,
top
100%.
5.
Yeah.
So let's see how Widnes can get back from that, and I hope they can carry on.
So Keighley, obviously, narrow defeat at Widnes. They host Newcastle on Sunday. Newcastle went to Toulouse on Saturday night, and again, that was fairly comprehensive, 58 points to 0. Spoken to a couple of people at Newcastle. They felt it was a pretty sort of flat effort, a few errors, early part of the season, leading to Toulouse tries. We know that it was only 24-0 at half-time. It was only really second half where Toulouse just started throwing it around, and as we know what Toulouse are capable of, putting a score on, and not for the first time we'll say this season, Toulouse missing some kicks at goal, so it could have been 70 if they'd have kicked the kicks at goal.
I think the last 2 weeks spoke to player at Barrow, and obviously the Newcastle lads. I guess this is a call out to all the other teams going into playing Toulouse. It's like a lot of them, that word has been used twice. Oh, we turned up flat. I could tell within the first few minutes. That might be a retrospective excuse, or it might be that they're already writing off the game as a loss. That's what you don't want to see. You don't want to see the leads when they turn up and they're not trying. You know what I mean? You want to see what Batley did and what they did against Lee last season, and hope they actually go into it thinking they can get a win. I watched Toulouse against Barrow. They're a very, very good team. They play with speed, very free-flowing rugby. But I certainly look at them like sometimes you did Lee, where you're like, I could see these turning up every week and never losing. I didn't see that. I saw that they can be beatable on their day, and you probably need. I want to stop hearing this excuse of, we turned up flat, i.e., I think we've already accepted the loss before we've shown up. And I think I want to see some of the teams really take it to Toulouse, because I think they are beatable. They're a very good team, but will be in the top 2. I think it'd be a big statement to say they won't be in the top 2, but they're beatable. Let's go take them on. Go say, we give it a good go. They just got us on the edge in a try. Let's hear a bit of that rather than we turned up flat twice in a row. Mick, it's sad to hear when we've been talking weeks on weeks of how competitive this league's going to be.
Well, listen, look, Chris Foreman is not going to be judged on that game, and Newcastle didn't really have a cat in hell's chance of ever going there and springing a shock. Just like York go there on Saturday after their game against Bradford tonight, and York are not going to go there and ruffle any feathers. It's just...
That's what I don't want to hear, though. Then we're writing it off.
No, but I'm not going to sit here and... listen, I can't lie to myself and say Newcastle have got a chance of beating Toulouse, York have got a chance of beating Toulouse. I'm just being brutally honest. Toulouse are spending over £1 million on the cap. They've got 21 full-time players. They've got dual reg with Catalans. anybody, and the people at Newcastle totally agreed with me. They're like, Mick, what you said about Toulouse is spot on. They are head and shoulders above everybody else in the Championship. Too many people are
Do you think they're head and shoulders above Fev?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Wow, that's sad.
I've got Toulouse. Why is it sad?
Because for me personally,
Cedric and
no,
Toulouse
not sad at
pumping the money in again.
Yeah, no, I'm not sad at that. I'm sad at, for me, is in I've built myself up on this Champ League as being what me and Jim have spoke about 50 times to be the most competitive.
It's the playoffs, Joe. You've misunderstood it.
No,
it's
it
the
is.
battle for the playoffs.
Yeah, no, but we've said, yeah, exactly. But we said it's going to be,
it's going to be the most exciting championship ever.
Yeah,
if you isolate the top two,
it's not if you
Toulouse
go and win every week and win the league, because then the rest of it doesn't matter.
It is because fundamentally, I'm placing Toulouse and Featherstone up there. You've then got Halifax, Bradford, York, Widnes, Sheffield, Barrow, Batley. You've got all them other clubs.
Because it would be exciting.
Yeah,
but it'd be exciting for me if I were convincing myself that in the off game that these other teams could have a chance. I'm not saying they were favourites to win by any chance, but I was saying it's going to be much closer. You have said it wouldn't be much closer.
I'm still saying that at some point in the year, that will happen. Toulouse on the road. I'd like to think that when Toulouse go to Halifax, when Toulouse go to Sheffield, when Toulouse go to Widnes.
But from what Mick's saying, that's not going to happen.
Toulouse are still going to be favourites every game they play.
Yes,
and
at no point have I said they won't not be. I'm saying that Toulouse, I thought Toulouse come the playoffs, we were like, this game's going to be close. If you did it by handicap betting or whatever, the +4, the +6, rather than +20.
Well, that's not going to happen, Joe, because Toulouse are going to finish top.
Toulouse
are going to beat home.
I agree with you. That's what I'm realising. That's all I'm saying.
So
I'm
you're
not.
Going to have
that's
a
why I'm sad.
Bradford,
That's why I'm sad.
Why be sad at that though? Because
I'm sad because I convinced myself I don't know what's hard to. I convinced myself through conversations that it's going to be that they will be, these other teams will be favourites.
If I had a pound for everybody who said Toulouse aren't this, Toulouse aren't that, because they've got these 17 players. They haven't. They've got 21 full-time players. They've got the dual reg with Catalans.
That's what I'm saying. I probably
Toulouse rightly are favourites to go up.
No, you're wrong.
Close.
You're wrong. Feather favourites.
No, I'm telling you now, Jimmy.
No, they might be, but Feather are the favourites. So you're now right. You're saying Toulouse are head and shoulder. I'm going to disagree with you.
No, that's fine.
I still think Feather and Toulouse are the standout teams. But
if
I'm
proven wrong, but I've got Toulouse to finish top.
Yeah, but they're not. Featherstone are still the favourites. Toulouse are obviously impressing, and it's like Joe said. Joe's disappointed because, and I understand what Joe's saying. It's looking like it's going to be a very clear top two, which we were expecting, and I still think that it will be. I've said it, building up to season, Toulouse will lose more games than last time they were in the league, and Fev will. It's so early. There'll still be a period where it gets a bit rocky. Fev did it last year, but battered Lee early on, and then be hit a bit of trouble. So there's a long way to go. We don't need to start being too dismissive of anything just yet.
I'm not being dismissive, Jimmy. I'm just saying what I said from week one. Toulouse and Fev will be the top two. Worrying for the rest is when you speak to Silvanule, because they didn't have the preparation that they wanted. Toulouse have started the season cold, so that first game against Barrow was effectively pre-season game number 1. This game against Newcastle was pre-season game number 2. Silvanule is basically saying they'll now be hitting the ground running this weekend when they host York. So again, I'm not saying it's going to be Toulouse 58, York 0, but I would not be shocked or surprised if York are getting 30, 34 start on the coupon, because that is realistically what I would expect.
I understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying anyone else is wrong or right. I'm saying it's sad for me purely because of I convinced myself that it's going to be this competitive. The word competitive, I obviously thought, come on, they have got a chance. I convinced myself these teams have got a chance against them.
And I still think we will. I still think teams.
Jimmy's adamant.
Toulouse and Fev will have a period.
You're pulling me to the left. He's pulling me to the right. It's
I can't see how.
The right is that they've got no one else has got a chance. Left is all they do. They do.
Newcastle and Chris Foreman, they knew they had no cat and else chance of getting anything from that game.
Yeah.
They're going to be targeting the Keighley game as their first win. And again, that should be a real interesting game.
What if you said no? Newcastle beat Swinton first week.
Sorry, I meant in terms of Yeah, sorry. Newcastle beat Swinton in week 1, so Newcastle looking to get another win, which puts them a bit of daylight, because one thing that Newcastle are worrying about is they don't want to be in that dogfight. Me and you, Jimmy, I think have got Newcastle in that sort of bottom 4 with London, Whitehaven, Swinton. I don't think Newcastle will go down. I said that on the preview. I still think I've got Whitehaven and Swinton ever so slightly isolated. It was Whitehaven 16, London 20. Wow, Mike Eccles has gone up there after that disappointing first performance against Batley, and never easy to go up there, but London did it yesterday.
Yeah, well, he said after that first game, he just felt, that was basically their first game, and a bit of fitness, match fitness was a factor, so he was confident they'd be better. And a huge fixture for both those clubs so early. So it was... I don't like using the term 4-pointer at this stage of the year, but I have actually used it quite a lot already. In other games.
Swinton Newcastle was a 4-pointer, effectively.
I also think that, in the playoff race for Sheffield Barrow I think that the Widnes York game was, there's the way we're viewing it, I think, there's a lot of those games and fixtures. So a brilliant result for London. Really tough result for Whitehaven, a tough trip, to Odsal last week, but they showed signs of... I know a couple of Bradford players said, fair play to Whitehaven. They were very tough to break down, so for London to go there and get that win, great result for Mike and great result for those boys down there, because obviously we predicted that they'll pick up some points at home and it'll be tough to get them on the road. So that really is a great win for them.
Probably doesn't help Whitehaven. There's been no snow or mass rain, or the typical. I don't want to put them solely in that box. They probably have more to offer than that. But I'm just saying, they normally do grab 2 or 3 wins early season because of that bog and that rain, and they know how to churn that out. They've got the players to. They've had the players who have grown up in that area. So I think, they're probably wishing for a good rain day here, that they can get a good win, a good tough win, and get the season going in the hole. I think that'll be key for Whitehaven, won't they? They need a few early season wins, because obviously when that summer comes and they go bigger, they try to attract a bigger type, a tougher type of player. That probably suits early season, so I think they probably need to grab a few wins in the next couple of weeks here before the sun comes shining and some of the faster, smaller teams per se start to show up later on in the year.
Well, sadly for Whitehaven, they're away at Featherstone on Sunday, so I don't think win number 1 is going to come there. And for London, they've got a tough trip to Halifax at the Shea, who were bitterly disappointing yesterday, Halifax. I watched the interview with Simon Griggs. Again, you don't like using this word flat, but Simon Griggs says that Halifax had trained this way to try and pick up an early season scalp after that big win against Sheffield, and trailing 22 points to 0 in nearly as many minutes. It was game over, sadly, because you give Featherstone a 22 start, you're not coming back from that. No. And whilst Simon fought in the last sort of 10 minutes, they played Featherstone at their own game and managed to stage a little bit of a late comeback and add a bit of respectability to the scoreboard. Yeah. It is still bitterly disappointing for Halifax and Grixie, who obviously clearly fancied his chances of his side going to Post Office Road and getting that result against Featherstone yesterday. But no real surprise for me, Jimmy. I'm commentating at Huddersfield Dewsbury. I've got my little score thingy flashing on, and I'm like, God, 20 minutes gone there and it's 22-0. Thankfully, that didn't blow out as bad as I feared it would do. Because I genuinely, if Featherstone had put 50-60 on Halifax after the 50 at Keighley, even with Toulouse hitting the ground running against Barrow and Newcastle, even then I'd be questioning my own sort of judgment. Am I placing Featherstone, unfairly below Toulouse? But, obviously Halifax, that never say die attitude, second half comeback. But in the end, it's still a crushing, disappointing defeat for Halifax Panthers by 46 points to 22. Not many teams are going to go to Featherstone and win, but,
No. And I think that's it. I mean, was I expecting, after the way Fev played and destroyed Keighley, I was expecting Fev to win by 3 tries, something like that. So, but you imagine in these sorts of games, it's going to be a real battle in the first half, and Fev might be a try up, and then they might kick on late on. So
it went the other way.
I've not seen the game. it's very easy to think, well, yeah, I know Halifax have come back late on with, some tries, and Woodburn all gets a couple later on, but then you think, well, have ever so slightly took the foot off the gas, or did Halifax just then start playing like they wanted to? So I can't judge too much, but yeah, it's I'd seen Halifax the week before against Sheffield, and there was some really good stuff, but then down the middle, you think, Tangata's awesome, isn't it? Tangata's awesome, but you think they're not, they're always going to be up against it against Fev in the middle. So the full-time result doesn't surprise me, but the nature of how it happened did surprise me a little bit, and it'll be good to see how Halifax bounce back. You say they're home against London
on Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's going to be interesting. Halifax and Grixie will be looking for a big response. The fans will be expecting a 20 to 30 point victory, I'd imagine there, but it wouldn't surprise me if London made that really difficult for him.
Yeah, I mean, just on Halifax, like you say, Jimmy, they started round one with that good win over Sheffield. Again, you said it could have gone either way, but fundamentally they'd started off really fast and really early. Be interested to see what happens against London. But yeah, interesting what I picked up with Grixie again, like you're saying, this flat start. I think it proves fundamentally these championship games, and it looked like Craig said in the full 80 minute, I spoke to Gailey and he's shocked at the intensity and how fast it is. Well, there you go. You can't start slow, and you can't give teams like Featherstone that start and that roll on. And I kind of get where Grix is going. He sees them training so hard all week in training, doing plan A. Game day comes, almost like rabbit in the headlights. Before you blink your eye, you're 22-0 down.
And that's what, certain teams are capable of doing that, aren't they? And basically making it. And Halifax very nearly did it to Sheffield last week. And Sheffield did manage to stick in there and make it a really close game. Because if you don't, I'm sure we'll get onto one in a minute, some scorelines this season which are just totally against the odds, which, again, gives you a bit of hope that there is going to be those. That's not condescending.
We're moving on to Batley against Swinton. Batley, that fantastic winning round one against London, the first win in the capital in 38 years. Flip it on its head, and Swinton are coming away with their first win at Batley in a couple of decades. 30 points to 16. Batley were actually leading at half time. And early in that second half, Buchanan scores to extend that lead.
But I don't know. We were obviously at different games. I was at Southlead Stadium watching Unser play.
I was doing a bit of moonlighting at Huddersfield.
You were at Huddersfield. But when I see that at half time, I'm just like, oh, that's a great effort from Swinton. They must have been going down the hill.
Exactly, that's what I said. And then I saw it go to 16-6, and I'm like, right, Batley are coming down slow.
But I checked at half time and saw that Batley had the hill with him. So I was like, this could be on, and then next thing, the Yale's killed him, so Batley 1 or 2 players out, but it wasn't a particularly weakened team, so we've got to say it now, haven't we? By far the result of the weekend for Swinton,
massive,
who getting beat at home by Newcastle in, again in inverted commas, a 4-pointer, to come back, play against Batley away, and come up with a big win and an unbelievable second half performance.
Listen, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They get
hats off. They get team of the week, and I don't care if Hull KR beat Wigan every weekend, unless Saints beat Penrith. That's going down as probably the result of a fortnight, isn't it?
It is a real.
How much do you want to read into? I know I like my what's it called? Big statements. What's the word? If you overreaction. I know how much you read into Batley losing that game. Are you worried if you put yourself in a Batley fan's perspective? Are you worried at all?
Well, the worry, and Craig Lingard said this, is that he's not happy with the squad. He's not happy with the squad. He wants more bodies, but sadly, there's no money in the pot to bring in players. They did the £10 ticket offer. No crowd has been disclosed yet. That'll probably come later on this week when the RFL do their weekly, aggregate. We've had round one. There was just over 16,000 fans, which was an average of 2,300
So the crowds on week 1 were up like 17% on this time last year.
Brilliant.
So the key
Brilliant
for
news.
Batley and what Craig Lingard, what I took from his interview was they need people to come through the gate. They need people to buy season tickets, buy shirts. That then puts more money in the pot for him to sign players. You know,
Mid-season.
Well,
You
now,
know about adding to the squad if they start getting good. Is that the sort of thing for him, Ron? We need to get good crowds so we can sign someone in April.
no, they didn't specify a month. It
I
says
think they
the
do
more
plan,
people that
they do
come
plan,
through,
don't they? I think if
the
they
more
get season
people come
tickets,
through the
then,
gates,
then it's a projection
they
on
can
like
get,
what
get players
what they're
in.
going to
But
earn
what he
throughout
has
the
got,
year.
so I asked him the question, Mr. Lingard at the Championship season last, are you happy with what you got, Craig? You know, you've lost Luke Cooley, Tom Gilmore. And he said no, he wants to bring more players in, but he can't because of financial constraints.
And this is, we did our predictions. We all left Batley out of that top 6
Yes.
for this very reason. Did any of us expect Swinton to go there and win? I bet there's not other than a few optimistic Swinton fans, there wouldn't have been a neutral in Championship Rugby who thought that was possible.
I agree. Yesterday, that was a home banker. Yeah.
Brilliant for Swinton, but like Joe says, that is a very worrying early result for Batley. So at least we got the win last weekend, but that's what we've predicted. We've predicted, all of us have agreed on this one. It's going to be very hard for Batley to launch themselves into those playoffs because of the squad depth and the fact that other teams in and around have strengthened so much.
I totally agree. Swinton this weekend, they host Barrow. Again,
Wow.
The pressure
Right.
really on Paul Carey and Barrow, who have started the season with 2 defeats, back-to-back home defeats. Very rarely you say that about Barrow. Perhaps the expectation and the bar was raised after a bit of overachievement, in my opinion, last year. They were beaten by the Sheffield Eagles 36 points to 16. Again, I haven't seen the game. I've only seen the highlights, and certainly the spine of Sheffield looks really, really good. I was watching the combinations between Thackeray and Aston, ball flying out to Dawson Jones, Ross Oakes, Chris Wellham. Listen, I probably am going to give Jimmy a bit of toffee here. Probably Jimmy's sort of enthusiasm for Sheffield did probably rub off on me a little bit. But when you actually look at who Sheffield have signed in the ins and outs, it's clear that Sheffield have spent money, they've invested in the squad, and now all of a sudden they've started round 1 with a narrow away defeat at Halifax, not to be sniffed at, and now they've got to Barrow and a fantastic win away from home, 36 points to 16, putting that pressure on Barrow, who've now got to go to Swinton, because all of a sudden that Swinton-Barrow game, Swinton pick off Barrow at Haywood Road, and then I'm going to be perhaps reassessing, although it's very early days, have I placed Barrow too far up the table in putting them in that sort of playoff mix, for that 6th spot with your York and your Widnes?
I think I had Barrow in 9th. I think I've got Batley one place above them. And I do think the beauty of Barrow is, I think everyone knows that their year last year was just amazing.
It was.
And they capitalised on other teams being weaker.
Correct.
And their team spirit and their resilience and the Maludi-Ritson partnership got them wins when others were expecting them to, finally drop off. I don't think their fans have gone into the season at all thinking we've got a divine right to get in the playoffs again. I think they're well aware that they're up against it. Certainly ones who look into how other teams have strengthened. This game was a huge game, I think, for probably Sheffield more than Barrow in terms of how I see the season panning out. Because if Sheffield are to be a top 6 contender, and if they are to be a serious, even higher, even fighting to try and get, in that top 4, again, this was a game they almost had to win. They had to go there with a very strong team up against, albeit a very strong team for Barrow, and say, well, we are now ahead of these guys. We are got to pick these points up. They went their first game of the season last year. I went over and Barrow picked them off in a close game. But these are the games, like we said, that you were talking about York earlier. These early wins can be the big difference when it comes to those last games of the season where there's 2 points between 7th and 5th and that sort of thing. So a great win for Sheffield. Tough for Barrow, and like you say, they go to Swinton now, and that becomes where you know, it would have been easy for some to say, oh, well, Barrow beat Swinton. Now people will be questioning, but actually this could be a right tussle. Swinton will be riding a cloud back at home, fans buzzing. Yeah. See that Barrow have lost a couple. Game on. What an exciting fixture for Swinton, and probably a bit of a... This becomes a really important game for Barrow.
It does, and on the back of Sheffield's win against Barrow, they host Batley on Friday night, and it doesn't get any easier for Craig Lingard and Batley. And it almost, you can see, can't you, very early now, even at round 3, I know we're previewing into the weekend, but, you know, Batley going to Sheffield, all of a sudden, you know, Batley are like, yeah, we've had that great win against London. Can we now go to Olympic Legacy Park, where Sheffield are very formidable at home? Listen, it doesn't get any easier for these coaches of these championship clubs, but
you know, and in the overall total, as all unbiased and neutral, if Batley go to Sheffield and win, then it's like poof, straight back to square one. If Barrow go to Swinton and win, back to square one. It's how quickly it can change with every fixture this season. There seems to be something in it, doesn't it? You know, with the exception maybe most teams going to Toulouse or Fev.
I agree.
There's a real big fixture that Friday night.
It's that unpredictability, Jimmy, that really sells it for me. I mean, tonight's game, we've done a separate preview. York against Bradford.
It's non-stop,
very difficult. The bookies can't split them 2-point start to Bradford. You know, they've got York slight favourites. We've all slightly gone with Bradford.
But I just going on that, like I worry about Batley going to Sheffield on the 4G. I think that is not a surface that, you know, from an outside looking in, you wouldn't expect that particularly suit Batley. You know, so that's a real tough place for him to go. You know, at this time, you'd almost want Batley to have another home game to get him, you know, get some points back on. But yeah, there's just great fixtures everywhere. I'm absolutely loving it.
And the final one is obviously Bradford against Widnes at Hodsall on the Sunday. Obviously, we've focused a little bit on Widnes. They're 2 from 2. They had the Ryan Miller hat-trick to be grateful for in their win over Keighley. We don't know what's happening yet, or what's happened yet at the LNER, because obviously Bradford and York haven't played yet. But, you know, it'd be a good narrative if you've got Widnes and Bradford.
It could
2
be,
from 2.
It could only be 3 teams who've won all 3 games after that game next week if Bradford do the business.
It promises to be a good game, and on the back of that, John Keir coming back to Hodsall. We know when he come back to Hodsall at the back end of last season.
Does that now become a bit of a rivalry, Mick? Could you?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Mark Dunn in that. I'll ask him that actually, probably this coming week when we're previewing the Widnes game. But they were thick as thieves, Mark Dunn and John Keir at the season launch.
Obviously they ended it, and it was all lovely.
It's all amicable. John speaks highly of Mark, and
the fans see it that way, because obviously quite a couple of Bradford players went to Widnes. Obviously, the ex-coach has brought some of the coach over, so it's this new team that has a lot of ex-Bradford players in Bradford's new look team, the new style, letting go of the old junkier ways and expanding and playing fast, free rugby. Old versus new.
Well, I mean, you probably saw a little bit of that in that Whitehaven game with the play calls and Ormsey on the inside, outside to Gill, and you know, it was like 2 minutes of bliss, but for Bradford,
well, it just adds another. It's like I said, it adds another dimension, doesn't it? You know, and I mean, the Bradford fans will be so happy at the moment. If you do get the win tonight, you'll be absolutely buzzing going into that, and you'll be, you know, with respect to Anthony Walker and even Ryan Miller after Ryan Miller scored 4 tries, no Bradford fans will be like, oh God, look at them 2. I can't believe it. Everyone's just going to be buzzing. So that'll be it. You'll be at that one, won't you, mate? That'll be a great game.
I was just actually looking at the fixtures for where I am this weekend. Thursday, I'm in Warrington for Warrington against Leeds. I'm nowhere Friday. I'm nowhere Saturday. But Sunday, I'm at Hodsall for Bradford versus Widnes. But if I was going to pick one of those championship games this weekend, aside from obviously having to cover Bradford versus Widnes, I really do think that Swinton Barrow game really is intriguing, and it's just sticking out to me because obviously Swinton getting that shock win against Batley. If they can turn over Barrow then still on Norton 3.
and I think they have got Featherstone the week after. So it doesn't get. Listen, and this is the thing. I wasn't being disrespectful to York in the York Bradford preview when I said if York lose tonight, they're not getting out from Toulouse. All of a sudden, you're 3 rounds in and you're on nothing. It is very difficult in this championship to claw them points back to get into the playoffs.
And this year,
it's almost like you're
ever,
chasing it, and the pressure of that chase. Yeah. It does seem more than most slip up. But
I mean, I'm actually going to go. League One starts this weekend. I'm actually going to go to Donny and Hunslet because that should be an absolute cracker to get off. But I think I'd be tempted to get to that Keighley Newcastle game if I wasn't, because it will be good. Be good to see if Keighley are crying out there for a good win and a bit of a show for the fans.
Have we all tipped Keighley in that one?
I think I'd have to. Yeah, I think you'd have to. I think at home after that respectable result, I'd like to think that. Keighley could easily turn it on that game. If they catch Newcastle on a hangover from Toulouse, probably literally, then it could be, that could be a chance for them to go, look, it's been a little tough start, but 2 tough fixtures, let's go now, we're off. And it could be a 32 points to 16 victory or something like that. So,
you at any games, Joe?
Mick, it's only this weekend, Mick. I've had what's it called? Gastroenteritis, Mick. I'm normally at games every weekend, so I've had gastroenteritis till yesterday. It's stopped a little bit. Stomach's still sensitive. But yeah, so I've been out of so I can handle first time I can handle a full meal. But I've had a week pure bedbound. I've not done any work. It's been quite nice actually. No work, no nothing. But I'm a bit behind. So I'm on it this week. I'll be at a couple of games. Hoping to see a couple of. I'm hoping to go to maybe a youth game on the Sunday and then build up maybe double triple header on the weekend, and let's get back into it after missing this weekend's action. To be honest.
There we go. Championship preview and review done for rounds 1 and rounds 2. And don't forget, you'll get this every week from now on. So fear not, championship lovers. You'll get some honest opinion on how the season's going. But just to recap, the round 3 fixtures started on Friday, Sheffield Eagles against Batley. That should be a humdinger. Saturday, it's Toulouse against York. Sunday, Bradford against Widnes. Featherstone against Whitehaven. Halifax hosts London. It's Keighley against Newcastle. And probably the tie of the round that we're getting excited about. It is, of course, Swinton against Barrow. There's no Monday night game next week. Again, I try to explain this. Viaplay are going to be a bit hit and miss this season. But listen, I can only be honest, when I spoke to Viaplay, they said they're only contractually obliged to cover rugby till the end of this year. So
writing's on the wall, it sounds.
Yeah, which is a shame, but I'm sure we'll find another broadcaster that will pick up the championship. Anyway, over and out. Let us know in the comments your predictions for this weekend's games. And see you next week.